Hello, everyone across the globe, wherever you may be. Thank you for joining us today. This is our Monday segment, and today we are going to talk about being in the flow. I came across a really interesting French expression, and it says être dans le corps. And what that means literally is being in the chords. And the backstory is that especially with singers in France. There was a time when that expression was used for a singer to stay in their range and their octave. That once they were in that particular range of octave is where they did their best singing, where they did that best work. And at that point, they were deemed to be être in don chord, in the chords. It then expanded to be used to flow, rhythm, the flow of your life, the rhythm of your life, also the sweet spot. And the questions that we're going to pose today to our panel here is, does everything in your career, in your personal life, does that all lead you to that sweet spot, that flow? Do you always stay in that octave range, or are they separate things? Are there things you do that aren't in the flow and things that you do in the flow? So I'm going to go first to Jacqueline and get her insights on this. You're muted.
Okay, this is really interesting. Thank you so much, Teresa, and to all of our fellow cohorts on today. Being in the flow and the rhythm is really at times what you do best, what your core gifting is. It's This is a really great topic, and I love the beautiful French expression, as you stated, being in the chords. But figuratively, it also speaks of being in a flow. When you think about the flow of water or the flow of a river and being fully aligned, think about flow as being fully aligned and deeply connected to your rhythm. You could have a rhythm, but is it your rhythm? Are you deeply connected to that rhythm? Is it your purpose? Are you deeply connected to the rhythm, your purpose, and your natural genius? What is unique to you? So, to draw a connection, that feeling when everything just clicks together, like it just, wow, that clicks. When your mind, your body, and your spirit are in that harmony, when you're doing what you were designed to do, and time almost just disappears. Things are just flowing in such a I'll say rhythmic manner. That's when it means to be in your chords. Everything is coming together and you're making that beautiful music. It's a sacred alignment. Coming and being in your chords, it's a sacred alignment between your gift and your expression. And I'm going to yield back to you, Teresa.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think a lot of times we're not in our rhythm or in our flow because we're disconnected from ourselves. We're kind of on automatic pilot or robot, so to speak. And we kind of go through the day, sometimes go through life without even paying attention to where we are, what we're doing. And I think that's why there's a lot of discontent also, is that people don't realize that everybody has a purpose, everybody has a flow, everyone has that sacred alignment, but it's a matter of getting yourself to it. And I don't think we often make ourselves a priority. Sometimes we never make ourselves a priority. And I think with that, we lose that connection. When we lose that connection to ourselves, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, then we lose that flow. And I'd like to go to Nathaniel now and get his insights on this.
Well, I can't put it as eloquently as Jacqueline did, but I can say that I concur with what she shared. I think that if people find their true purpose, that rhythm, they will naturally fall into that rhythm. And it's when you take on your true purpose that it's not work. It's something that you generate energy, and your energy keeps regenerating more energy and more energy. And then from the financial side of it, it's something that you would do for free when you're living in that purpose. And then the law of attraction kicks in, because you're living in purpose, and because of the positive energy that's flowing, everything gets into that harmonic stage of being, right? And you move away from doing to being. How do you get there? Find out what your true purpose is.
Thank you, Nathaniel. And that's actually my next question is, how do you find your true purpose? I'm at the age where, am I retired? Kind of. When I had moved from New Jersey to Alabama, I kind of, because of the situation, because of different things, I can't say, I don't want to use the word forced to retire, but I was kind of forced to look at different directions. And it actually was good for me, because there were things that I actually wanted to do and that I had started doing. But when I was working a traditional job, I didn't have the time for that. And then I've heard people say when you're retired that you have no purpose, or how do you find your purpose? I've heard that said. So I'm going to go back to Jacqueline and find out, how do you find your purpose?
Well, the first thing is really understanding. Sometimes we're looking for everything to be perfect. And when you're looking for purpose, when you're discovering purpose, it's not always going to mean that life is perfect. But what is really important is that you're present. People can sometimes get caught up on so many of the other, I'll say, duties, and they're not really present. Because when you are tuned into your rhythm and you're present, instead of kind of struggling with it, you will begin to operate in a divine frequency. Now, when you're on the divine frequency, you're going to find purpose, yours, not somebody else's, but your individual, unique purpose. And you won't feel any intimidation. You won't feel that you've got to be in competition with anyone. But what you will know is that you have found your authentic place. There's, I'll say, three major things to pushing even further. And one is honor your internal tempo, because we're talking about rhythms, right? So one would be to honor your internal tempo, because we live in this world obsessed with speed, but divine rhythm is not rushed. So learn to move, when to pause and when to rest. Know how to do that. And your peace, believe it or not, is going to be your productivity. And then the second thing that you can do is eliminate the energetic distractions. Flow requires us to really focus. And that means releasing things like comparison, releasing things like overthinking, and I said perfectionism already, and protect your atmosphere, because what surrounds you begins to shape you. Nathaniel mentioned the laws of attraction. And then thirdly, align yourself before you act. Before you send the email, before you take the stage, or before you make that decision, pause and align. Ask yourself, is this particular movement in rhythm with my purpose? Is it in alignment? So that when you act from alignment, even the small steps, they create divine results. I yield back to you, Teresa.
Thank you so much. I totally agree with that. And again, I keep coming back to you have to connect to yourself. And I think that's one of the main things is connecting to yourself and taking the time, like you said, to pause, to really just sit there quietly. And, your purpose, usually your purpose is also your passion. Sometimes people are called to do something and they may not be passionate about it at first because it may be something that's different than what they thought that they wanted to do. But then if they follow that intuition or that guide that's telling them, that's the feelings of you need to do this, or the synchronicity of this happens, that happens. And it may be leading you away from something that you were already in into something different. And I think we need to honor that. And I think a lot of times we kind of get fearful of that. And that could be another reason why we have trouble finding our purpose, trouble aligning. And I'd like to go to Nathaniel now, since he did pose the question of how do you find your purpose?
I wish I knew the answer to that. I think that we talk about mind, body, and spirit all the time, right? And I think the first thing is to get those in the right sequence, to spirit, mind, body, because there's a hierarchy of how things work. And then the big exclusion that we have is environment and environmental influencers. So we tend to work on the spirit, the mind, and the body, and we don't work on the environment and the environmental influencers. And then we go, why is it that we're not being successful? Because we got to look at it in its totality, right? And if we approach from the totality, it kind of guides us and take us to where we need to go. So I used to travel to Chicago to home office a lot, and there was a gentleman there, and no matter how many times I went into Chicago, I went down and got my shoes shined. And the guy that was doing my shoes had been doing shoes for 35 years. And he did the shoes of the executives that were in and out of the buildings. And his purpose was shining shoes and having conversations with people at all these different levels. But he knew that was his purpose. So he didn't try to compare himself to anybody else. He didn't try to become more than what he did. Shoes, he did them well, and he spreaded the message that he needed to spread through communicating with everybody, shoes that he shined. And he was able to, at an early age, identify that purpose and take that through life. And the impact is, I think it was just phenomenal, because I learned so much from him, and I'm sure everybody else that interacted with him learned a lot as well. So the purpose and the passion may not be a glamorous thing. It may be a job that someone looks at and think, oh, that's mediocre. No, no. There is a purpose behind everybody and everyone and what it is that they do. And without all those little teeny pieces coming together, we never get to where it is that we're meant to get to. So we need all that diversity, right? Um, so I think if you look at the totality of, spirit, mind, body, environment, and environmental influences, and it will you will just kind of naturally go in the direction that you need to go in, and you'll know. It's one of those things. It's like you'll know when you're there. Nobody can tell you. You'll know when you've arrived.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I love that story about how sometimes in the mundane, or what we view as the mundane, is where purpose is and where the greatest things really happen. Because, like you said, it wasn't about shining shoes. It was about the conversations, about the giving and receiving of the knowledge, just about that social interaction. And I think that that is so, so important, that when we're looking for purpose, that sometimes, like you said, we look for the glitz and glamour, or we look for, oh, I need to be the executive of this company, or I need to be the top person in the hospital or the healthcare system in order to have purpose. And that's really not true. So my next question is going to be, what tips would you give our listeners about how to find their purpose? What has worked for you, Jacqueline?
Okay. What has worked for me? The first thing, I had to learn to trust that I was exactly where I was meant to be in that moment. I had to trust that and not wrestle with it and fight with it. It was like, okay, I'm supposed to be here. So let me settle in and let me just be for a moment so that I can tap into the the internal voice that I can hear better. Sometimes there's so many distractions out there, but sometimes if we would just accept that, okay, I'm where I'm supposed to be. So let me just take a minute to breathe and to go in internal and to hear, and then begin to flow with that. Example of the man that was shining shoes for all those years. It may not be something glamorous, and we may be looking for something different, but if it's right before you and it's not going anywhere, begin to say, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be, and be okay with it. Because when you're in rhythm and you're going and finding and allowing your purpose to start to lead, guess what else comes with that? Grace. And the grace carries you where your efforting could never go. Sometimes we over effort. So that's one of the ways that you can find your purpose. And then the other piece is your mindset. Change your mindset. Begin to tell yourself that you're not going to chase all the other things. The only thing that you're operating in is the rhythm and the flow. And then let yourself become aligned with whatever the divine timing is, because your purpose is going to be anchored in that divine timing. Being attuned to the sacred beat of our own becoming. And that is easier said than done, because you know what that means? It means you have to be quieter. You have to have less distractions, and you have to be in tune to hear and know and understand everything about laws of attraction, universe, creator, God, whatever, in how you deal with, well, what am I created for? Whatever that is. And then the last piece of finding purpose is you have to release the resistance. If you release the resistance, you're going to find that it's going to be easy to flow with the grace. It's going to become easy to move with intention. Sometimes moving with intention, it seems like, wow, why am I struggling? Well, because you haven't released the resistance and just flow with the grace. Can still move in intention, but remember, don't forget to create from the stillness, the breath, every step and every decision. Believe me, it's going to bring you into a deeper harmony of who you truly are and what your chords are. Now you're in your divine rhythm within itself.
Oh, thank you so much for that. Nathaniel.
Ditto. I get the pleasure of coming in once a week and being around such smart people. And to be candid with you, for me to even try to answer that after Jacqueline, it would be just to hear myself talk. I think she covered quite a bit of the information that will help people to get to where they want to go to.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, I think the tips are you have to be in tune with yourself. And in order to do that, you need to be quiet.
Yep.
Because you need to be able to hear that inner voice. And that inner voice isn't going to speak to you like a conversation. There's a commercial that I like. It's for a what do you call it, cholesterol lowering medication, but I think it gets the point across. It's a heart sitting on a couch in a doctor's office next to a patient, and the doctor says, we got to get your cholesterol down. And the heart starts talking to the person and saying, yes, you need to do X, Y, and Z, and you need to take Repatha. And the doctor says, yes, you're wise to listen to your heart. Well, I think the deeper meaning in that is that there is an inner voice that we have. It's not going to come to you. It's not going to sit down next to you. It's not going to give you words. If you're hearing words, most likely that's your ego talking. It's not your inner voice. Your inner voice is more that feeling, more that trusting going in a direction. And once you could do that, to sit quietly, to get this so-called information, but you're getting it via feelings. Like maybe, I would like to do more of this, or maybe, geez, I always thought I was happy as an accountant or whatever, but now I'm finding that I'm kind of being drawn to this. And then to explore that more. And I think that, once we're in tune, I agree with you, spirit, mind, and body. Body plays a big part because you have to be able to feel the sensations. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where we really disconnect the most, because we don't want to feel things. And that's a conversation for another time. But definitely, to sit quietly. The main tip I would give people is to sit quietly, to follow that voice, to follow that feeling. And if it's illogical, that's great, because that's really telling you then that it's coming from inside you, because inside you is not logical. It's leading you in a direction. So what I would tell people is to follow that voice, to follow what they feel, and to see where it leads. And to know that there is even purpose in everyday life. Every day that you wake up and every day that you talk to people, every day that you do your job, there is a divine purpose behind that. And we don't always see that. We may not know whose lives we touched just simply by even doing our job, as Nathaniel mentioned before. So we've got about 4 minutes here, and I'm going to close out. Jacqueline, any last words, and you can tell people how to get in touch with you.
Oh, sure. You can certainly find me on social media, Revolution Ascension, my personal page. You can't miss me. You'll find me there, Jacqueline Lulu Brown, and also on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is Jacqueline Brown, and you'll type it in. I know there's a lot out there, but you can't miss me because I'm the woman with the bright yellow dress on. So that's a key that you can find me on LinkedIn. And any of those avenues, you're going to see links where you can schedule a free 30-minute consult with me. And also, when you do that, and even if you schedule it and don't show up, I send you a link to a free downloadable workbook for faith-fueled business, life, and leadership. And so you get that whether you come on the call or don't come on the call.
Oh, thank you so much, and Nathaniel.
People can reach me at nathanielxross.com or abundancelegacy.org. All my email and social media is there, and I do answer all my own messages. So when they come in, you do get a personal response from me. So please feel free to reach out. And if there's anything that I can do to support or help in any way, I'll be glad to.
Thank you so much for that. And for myself, I could be reached. My new website actually updated. It's still in the progress, but you could download with an email, a subscription, free subscription. You could download my book on talking about how to listen to your heart. It's a short PDF. It's about 12 pages. And it's under Teresa Ann Palmer, TERESA. ANNEPALMER, oneword.com. And why I have it that way is if you look up Teresa Palmer, you're going to get the Australian actress. So she dominates almost every page. And by the time you find me going through that, and I'm not a famous actress, it's much easier to just do Teresa Ann Palmer for my website.com. And I'm also on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. I thank everybody for coming on today, for sharing their wisdom and their insights. And Nate is exactly right. All of us that participate on this really have such nuggets of insight and wisdom to give to everybody else. And I'm so happy that we're able to do that through the Own It platform. And through Own It magazine. So I thank everybody, and everyone have a good either start of your day, rest of your day, or maybe depending on the part of the world, it may be Tuesday for you right now. So please enjoy everything. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for subscribing, and thank you for being part of the Own It family. I need to put my glasses on here so I could see the music to get us to exit.